Hello and welcome to series of WAIPA short interviews with representatives of investment promotion agencies. My name is Bostjan Skalar and I'm the Executive Director of World Association of Investment Promotion Agencies, WAIPA. The purpose of these interviews is to get an overview how IPAs all around the world are responding to COVID-19 crisis, what measures they are taking, and what actions they are planning to post-COVID-19 era. It is my sincere pleasure to have with me today Mr. Yofi, the CEO of Ghana Investment Promotion Center and distinguished WAIPA Steering Committee member representing Sub-Saharan Africa region. Dear Yofi, what's the current situation in Ghana and what measures are being taken to alleviate the impact of COVID-19 on the economy?
Thank you very much, Bostjan. It's great to have this chat with you. We are all in perilous times, and of course, life is not the same as it used to be. And therefore, we've all had to adjust to things as they are today. First of all, before I answer your question, I'd like to state that the whole COVID-19 crisis has done three things. First of all, it has disrupted production in many places. It has disrupted trade lines and logistics and all that. Secondly, it is also what I would say desocialized people because you need to separate, you need to quarantine, you need to disengage, and therefore things are not as fluid as before. And then, of course, financial systems have also been disrupted in a major way. So any country that has been affected in those ways has to take measures. But the most critical thing at this moment is to ensure that we preserve lives, we save lives, and make sure that people are safe and healthy. And at the GIPC, when this started, before almost any other agency, we took measures to make sure that we were not working full team. We were restricting our meetings. We put in all the sanitizers and all the what was necessary to make sure that people were okay. And then we started social distancing. But of course, our executive, the president, had already issued measures to try and stay ahead of the curve of the virus by tracing, tracking, and testing, or now trace, track, and treat. Mm-hmm. So despite the fact that we have had we've been able to identify over 1,300 cases. We are not seeing as many ill and sick people because of the lockdown measures that were implemented for almost 3 weeks. And then right now we are on lockdown, but a minimized version of the lockdown, where we are now supposed to wear masks in town. And once you're in a public place, you have to wear a mask to ensure that, and you have to make sure that everywhere you go, there's sanitizers. And in fact, right now, almost every office you go, right at the gate, they insist that you wash your hands, you take your temperature, and then you use sanitizer. So it's become the standard and the new life now. But beyond that, of course, we all believe that there's going to be a future. And so what are we doing now to ensure that we secure that future? And of course, to the extent that a lot of trade enterprise is disrupted, financial systems disrupted, and people are not as together as they are. Going back to the future, you're looking at, first of all, how you can re-establish yourself, reposition yourself so that life is normal. And sometimes I wonder whether life will ever be normal again because things have changed and we'll do things differently. So for us, the policy direction is, so what should we do to ensure that post-COVID, we are able to recover quickly and get back to where we're supposed to be?
This was my second question, actually. You as a leader of an IPA, so an investment promotion agency, the national one, how do you see will the field of investment promotion be shaped in the long term? And why may IPAs, as you say, need to adjust their strategies and maybe use this as a chance?
Well, first of all, as we are right now, there's been a lot of sort of disruption of movement and interaction. So, you know, many countries still have their borders closed. And we have our borders closed for the next 2 years. So you can't engage as you did before. So, of course, the electronic medium and virtual meetings are going to be critical, like we are doing right now. I have had quite a number of virtual meetings on Zoom worked out very well, some on Skype, speaking to potential investors who were looking at projects in Ghana before the crisis and are seeking assurance that, okay, if everything goes back to normal, it will get back to business. And yes, I've assured them, any country that's attractive now will likely be attractive in the future because the resources and the opportunities may still be there. Some opportunities might have wished away purely because of the disease. But otherwise, those like in the minerals, resources, extraction and on infrastructure development, those opportunities will still be there. Agriculture will be massive because people need to eat. And therefore, I suspect that going forward, the areas, the priorities for investors in Africa particularly would be to build an infrastructure that will create resilience within the economies. Secondly, I think the most hit area is food supply chains, and therefore investment into agriculture and agro-processing to make sure that, yes, we get people back on their feet, healthy and strong. And then, of course, we'll have to look at production again. The big question is post-COVID, are people still going to have liquidity to be able to maintain consumption behaviors? And the jury's up in the air. It's unlikely because a lot of people are out of jobs, a lot of offices are closed, and people are now in survival mode. But post-COVID, we have to look at investments that are going to regenerate economic activity. So small-scale manufacturing should be one. Agriculture certainly should be another. And of course, infrastructure such that you are better prepared should anything happen like that again. And I must say that almost every economy in the world today has been found wanting. Many countries are looking at recession. Many countries are looking at deficits. And so the world needs to reestablish itself. I think light manufacturing would come back to create opportunities for things that people need, not what people want.
So I guess you would agree with me that, and I would ask you, why do you believe the IPAs are more relevant than ever? And why is the cooperation or partnerships with other institutions so vital in these critical times?
Indeed, it is. I mean, I can't even emphasize strongly enough how that is important, why IPAs are important today. Because IPAs are able to source and narrow down to the critical areas required and the critical investment required for most economies. I mean, we almost always identify priorities and then look for investment into those priorities. And that is exactly what every country will be doing post-COVID to ensure that their economies survive or their economies are restarted. So that's very important. But then, of course, we can't do that alone. We would need to do that with other agencies that are in the global space. So for us, for example, one of the scorecards we are using is, okay, so what is most critical post-COVID? And you look at the SDGs. How can we reestablish the SDGs? So how can we target our investment missions to achievement of the SDGs? Who are the partners that we can bring in? The World Bank, the WTO, the WEF, WHO, and there are quite a number of agents that we need to partner to ensure that happens because the world has to move on. Business has to come back, and business coming back needs a global approach. It can't take one country approach. So for Africa, the next big thing that was going to happen on July 1st was the launch of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Now, in the event of this COVID-19, that has been shifted, of course. I mean, and there are more challenges. But the intention will still even become stronger. And therefore, our partnership with the AFCFTA Secretariat should be stronger to try and reignite industry and agriculture in Africa. So for us, that's a critical element of it. Partnerships are going to be very important. And secondly, the reason why partnerships are going to be important is that we need to identify critical opportunities, not just for ourselves, but for the investors. And therefore, even as you're doing that, you are looking at investors who are looking for those specific critical opportunities. And therefore, the partnerships become even stronger because we believe that with agencies like WEF, WTO, the World Bank, GIZ, the EU, you can clearly outline these things and filter through the critical investment element. And this time, I mean, Africa has an opportunity to negotiate better than ever before. And I believe that the African IPAs are going to be even sharper now than they ever have been before in ensuring that their economies are put back on track.
I am sure you would agree that also businesses will play by itself a very important role, also supporting let's say, the role of IPAs in the eyes of these big institutions that you have mentioned, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. In Ghana, our development agenda is precipitated mainly on an aggressive and active private sector. And therefore, we engage at the GIPC. Anytime we go out on an investment mission, we've always taken private sector operatives with us, because investment, as we say, is a relationship, it's not an event. And therefore, that relationship, you must nurture and grow and cement. And then with that relationship, then you also develop a very strong aftercare service to ensure that it's a sustainable relationship. So we obviously engage the private sector, because the private sector is a large source of capital anyway. And so even as you're looking at opportunities in your country and you're selling the opportunities in your country, your focus target is the private sector and the big institutions in the private sector.
That's the main client of the IPAs, of course.
Absolutely, absolutely, Bostjan.
Yofi, we don't want to have this interview so long, so I really thank you so much for being the first one in these interviews. And I am sure the audience that will listen to this video will learn a lot from your perspective, especially what's going on in Sub-Saharan Africa or wider in Africa, and as well on the point of view of IPAs, what they should do, what best practices they should follow. And I really do appreciate, and we will be gladly sharing your views around our network, so everyone can learn from your invaluable insights. So
thank you very much, Bostjan. Just one last point before I get off. I think this is an opportunity for us to look at significant reforms and ensuring the ease of doing business, because those are what are going to create the catalytic foundations for engagement. And I think this is a good opportunity for Africa to look at the reforms to remove the barriers to business and ensuring that we benefit significantly through partnerships and linkages in the global community, investing community.
Great.
So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, and I look forward to listening to others as well.
Thank you very much, Yofi.
And please stay safe.
Yes, stay safe and healthy.
Yes,
and healthy. And to other participants, we will be informing you where the new insights will be coming from our interviews, and please stay tuned. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bostjan.